Hello, my name is Peter Stanton. I am the founder and CEO of Stanton Communications, based in the United States, in Washington and in New York City. And my role is to really establish the strategic direction of our firm, but also very much serve as an account executive for our clients. No one in our firm is disengaged from client work, and that applies to me too. So on any given day, I might be doing what some of our entry-level people are doing, but maybe where my greatest focus is concentrated is in strategic planning and also in editorial oversight and client service delivery.
Thank you, Peter. And you and your team entered you for the Indie Legend category this year for the 2023 Indie Awards. Tell me, what was that process like for you?
It was humbling and a little embarrassing. I suppose I qualified. I have to say, I think I qualified as an applicant just on the basis of age. I thought, oh, you can't be a legend unless you're a senior citizen. I was gratified to see that the other candidates for the award were younger professionals. So I appreciated being in the company of such outstanding individuals with tremendous portfolios and an exciting history of work in their businesses and in their careers. So it was really it was an interesting process to have to sort of reconstruct where I've been and what I have done, and it was humbling that they thought that I would be worthy of this award, and even more so that the Network One was so gracious in recognizing me as one of the honorees. Thank you very much for that. It has tremendous meaning for me.
Oh, Peter, it's an absolute credit to you that you made it to the shortlist, of which only 5 individuals, and that's out of 1,500 agencies that made it through to the top 5. So many congratulations for everything you've achieved in your career. The quote that started your entry for the Indie Legend Award was, "If you want to be remembered as great, if you want to be a legend, you have to be out there every single day and doing stuff." So talk to me more about how this sums up your approach to agency leadership and how you've achieved all you have to date.
Well, that quote actually came from a fairly famous athlete here in the United States, a football player, American football. And it really struck me because it is the reality, I think, for anybody in this business, that you have got to be working every day and almost every moment of every day. You just cannot sit back and expect it to happen. It's perhaps a little bit of a silly story, but when I started Stanton Communications, of course, there was no internet, but there were computers. And on the very first computer that I purchased, there was this wonderful little feature that allowed you to play the card game Solitaire on your computer screen. And, it was a distraction. And I found myself being drawn to it from time to time and always having to remind myself, turn this off and get to work. Because if you're not out there doing stuff every single day, then you're not going to find clients, you're not going to grow your business, you're not going to be able to realize the aspirations that you have set for yourself and that motivated you to do this in the first place. So I'm not playing solitaire even to this day. I'm trying to always make a contribution. I'm trying to add value. I'm trying to find new clients and serve the wonderful clients who have trusted us with their confidence and their mandates. And I'm trying to really live by that rule. Every single day, at the end of the day, I try to recapture what I was able to do that day and use that as the platform for the next day. And if you don't have that energy and that dedication and that determination, you're not going to succeed.
I think that's an incredible way to look at how to generate that kind of momentum needed in order to make an agency successful. Thank you for sharing that. Part of your application was about how values driven you are and about your faith and about modeling behavior. So what values do you think are important, particularly in this sector for independent leaders, those working in the independent space across multiple marketing and communication disciplines? And how do you think that shaped you as the leader you are today?
I think values in our industry are critically important, and I worry about it in our industry. I believe that there are some things that are going on in our field that are reason for attention. I'm not sure I would go so far as to say concern or alarm, but I think we need to really be vigilant about what is guiding business decisions, what is guiding the way we practice our craft. It's one of the reasons, quite frankly, why I feel so determined to remain independent. Because if I can say it this way, someone else's values are not being imposed upon us. And we can decide for ourselves who we wish to represent, how we wish to conduct our engagements and our business, and what we wish to strive to achieve. And I think all of that is very, very important. There are a lot of opportunities to do business on matters that are controversial and difficult. And I don't mean to suggest that we should shy away from those. Controversial clients deserve representation too. But when you have the prerogative to make those decisions and engage your team in making those decisions, I think that's critically important. And so for me personally, the values that I was raised with, that were originally taught to me by my parents, and I mentioned my faith. I was raised in accordance with a particular faith, and the ideas and principles and guidelines of that faith, I think, are with me today. But more than anything, as an independent firm, we have an opportunity to invite our teams, our individual professionals, regardless of rank or tenure, to share their perspectives and share their insights and share their viewpoints. And even when we do, on those rare occasions, engage with a controversial client, they have the opportunity to opt out if it offends their sensibilities. And I haven't encountered that yet. And, people feel as if they have an opportunity to share their perspectives. That openness, that transparency, that availability for communication and dialogue, we're in the communication business after all, I think is terribly meaningful for them.
That sounds like an incredible culture that you've built internally, and to give your teams and your colleagues the ability to speak up in that way and have a voice. That was coming through loud and clear in your application for this award. Peter, tell me, would you describe yourself as an entrepreneur?
Maybe accidentally. I don't know that I ever woke up in the morning and said, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm not sure, even when I founded Stanton Communications, that definition was very much in my mind. What I was focused on and what I was thinking about was the ethic that I wanted to apply to business. And I was coming out of an amazing and wonderful experience with a very large international agency. But I had developed some uncertainty about where that firm was going, the kind of work that it was doing, and maybe also just sort of the somewhat reduced emphasis on client service excellence that I was observing in my setting at that time. And I was hearing from clients that they wanted a little bit more focus on their specific needs and on their business objectives. And I felt there was an opportunity for me to create a firm that would put clients first. And I think we wrote this into the application for this award. Our ethic, our model, our business principle was always clients first. And that's the way that we presented ourselves in the marketplace. That's how we won our first clients. That was what they responded to and what they rewarded us for with additional mandates or extended mandates or longer term relationships. And it continues to be very much within the ethos of our firm today. Our emphasis is on serving our clients and doing as exceptional work as we are capable of doing for them on a constant basis. And it's hard, it's demanding, it is taxing sometimes, but it's enormously rewarding. And when you have clients say to us, as many of ours do, we feel as if you are part of our team. We feel you know us so well that you're in our DNA. That's what we're striving for. And we just love it when we can have that kind of a relationship with our clients.
That sounds like you're an early adopter of the client-centric model, and that's paid dividends for you longer term. And the fact that you're still approaching business in the same way means that it was the right decision. How important are long-lasting relationships with clients, and what advice would you give to other agency leaders who'll be looking at their approaches or reviewing how they bring in new business or what they're looking at in terms of retention?
Well, it's having long-lasting relationships with clients is something that is really important, I think. It's also a gift, and it's increasingly difficult these days because clients feel compelled to review their engagements on a regular basis. Procurement departments become involved in renegotiating agreements, and things change. Organizational leadership, whether it is in nonprofits or whether it is in industry associations or major corporations, changes from time to time, and leadership wants to have their own consultants and counselors. So we have had long-term relationships that have gone on for extended period of time. In one case that comes to mind, more than a decade. But leadership changed. They wanted new personnel within their organization, and they wanted new outside consultants. And so that relationship did not continue beyond that point. And it's unfortunate, and we were sad to see them go, but more determined therefore to build on that legacy and that experience and that capability to find someone else in that same sector to be able to represent and begin a new relationship with. So long-term client engagements are very important. They are wonderful when they are possible. And we work very, very hard to maintain that potential. And I think it's all part too of what we were talking about a moment ago in terms of clients first. If you're paying attention to their needs and their requirements and their expectations, and if you are committed to delivering excellence in every way you possibly can, then your likelihood to realize that extended relationship increases. And we place a great deal of emphasis on it. One of the things that is very common is to look at the industry trades and see all of these new client announcements. And they're wonderful, and we'd like to make our own announcements when we have them, but we don't always have an announcement of a new client because we're taking care of the ones we've got. And I think that's a smart thing to do, and I think it's good for us, and I'm sure it's good for many other firms as well, particularly the independents. And I really, again, congratulate the Network One for this focus on independence, because we need support, we need the opportunity to share best practices, and we need to be able to share what's working for us to see where we might be able to improve and how we might be able to help colleagues and partners who will work with us as allies in all of the engagements that we have.
Amazing. Thank you, Peter. A lot of people listening to us today will be interested in your back history and where your career started. And interestingly, particularly for me, was to see, you know, a lot of the leadership you'd experienced early on in your career was female leadership. Talk to me about, you know, where you got to before you started your own agency.
I remind my colleagues in the firm that my first 4 bosses in the communications field were women. And I learned, I would almost go so far as to say I learned everything from them. But I continue to learn. I'm learning from the women I have the privilege of working with today, and the men too. But I think working with those female bosses and learning this craft and this profession probably gave me a perspective that I might not have had otherwise. These women, and let me just say, I began working in this field in the early 1970s. And that probably was not an easy time for women to achieve positions of leadership anywhere, in corporations, in government agencies, in institutions. But there they were, and they had worked exceptionally hard to achieve their position. And I know from what I observed and from what they shared with me that it took a great deal of resilience. I mean, let's just call it what it is, thick skin. They had to get through some difficulties. They had to get through some resistance to their advice and their recommendations. I remember one instance in particular in a position that I had early in my career where my boss was making a recommendation to the CEO of the organization and basically was being ignored, entirely ignored. And she was expressing in the office some frustration with this and trying to figure out what to do. And she came to me and said, all right, you're a man. If you're not paying attention, what gets through to you? How do I capture your attention? And I said, you walk into my office and tell me, pay attention, damn it. And she actually did that. She went to the CEO's office and she walked in, and I think she interrupted a meeting that was taking place at the time and said, I need to speak to you, and I need to speak to you now. And I honestly can't remember. I don't want to take credit for something I don't deserve. I don't remember if the CEO ultimately did what she recommended, but you know, she had the spine and the determination and the determination really to do that. And it taught me that maybe once in a while, you shouldn't take no for an answer. So I think learning from women who were working very hard to establish themselves in the positions of leadership that they held was one piece of it. But I'll also tell you something else. And I think this is probably, I hope that I transmit this in my work with clients and in my work with my colleagues. These women were very, very sensitive to others. I don't think men, certainly in that era, were quite the same way. And, you know, I used to have a boss who would frequently say, you know, we're in the people business. We have to take care of our people. And I don't know that a male boss would have necessarily said that. The male boss might have said, we have to take care of our clients. We have to win the next client. We have to do something else. And if that means that some people have to, you know, go above and beyond and maybe to extremes, do the work or find something else to do. The women were much more sensitive. They were attentive to all of us as people. And I noticed it, I benefited from it, and I internalized it. And I really hope that I don't lose that, and I hope I demonstrate it to my people on a regular basis. I'm not perfect. I know that I fall short from time to time, but I think that's something that having those early female bosses really helped me with significantly.
Well, Peter, I think you're being very humble because of the testimonials and the comments coming through on the Indie Legend, you know, the award category. We're just absolutely glowing of you and your agency and the way that you've pulled teams together and what you've done to help facilitate that and lead that. So I think you're being very, very humble.
That's very flattering. I appreciate the compliments. You know, I think one of the greatest rewards, in addition to business success, that comes from having your name on the door and being an independent entrepreneur is when you hear someone who worked for you in the past coming back and saying, you know, that was one of the best experiences of my career. I'm very blessed to have heard that a few times. It means more to me than anything else I might be able to ever accomplish in this work.
Well, that is, again, very humble of you to say, Peter. I'm sure that there's lots of people out there who are screaming at the screen to say, Peter, it was down to you. Another thing your team have told us is that you're always open to new and innovative ways of working from back, you know, from when you started your career all those years ago, to looking at the new technology that we're facing today. How important do you think is embracing change and as an agency leader, as your agency has evolved and as other leaders that will be listening to you today, what would you say to them?
Well, learning new ways of doing things, I think, is essential. Our field, one of the things I find so exciting about the communications industry is that there are new things going on all the time. And ideas, preconceived notions, or established practices that you might have come into this profession with have necessarily had to change. Technology has made that essential. I remember early on a client telling me, you know, you need to start communicating with me via email because I'm not paying attention to every phone call I get. And I'm very personal. I like to pick up the phone. I still tell my people, if you cannot reach the journalist, pick up the phone. But this particular client required a greater concentration on email. So you better believe I learned how to do it and made it part of my routine practice. Now we're facing new technological developments and challenges, and I find it daunting. I think this is part of the age factor, but it's also exciting because I can go to some of the youngest professionals in my firm and say, teach me, help me understand this. And they relish that. They find that exciting. Maybe it's because they get to correct me instead of the other way around. But I find it wonderful. and it keeps things fresh, and it keeps things challenging, and it keeps the work interesting. We never really are doing the same routine thing day in, day out. There's always an innovation. There's always a new challenge. There's always a new way to reach our intended audiences. And, being able to think about those innovations and think about those new ways of practicing our craft, I find that tremendously challenging, and it's one of the things that keeps me from retiring. I want to continue to learn every day.
Good for you. No, I can completely appreciate that. The interesting way that you talk about retirement and staying in the role and continue to do what you do, you've actually got a really interesting setup for your senior leadership, Peter, haven't you? Tell me how that works at Stanton Communications.
Well, you get to a certain milestone, whether that's your personal age or the age of the firm, and the natural course, the natural progression of things is to consider the transition. And what is that transition? Do you merge with somebody? Do you sell your agency and go off to the great golf course in the sky? What do you do? And we entertained all of those possibilities. And there was a conversation that we were having with a potential acquirer, and we were not very far along. And I found myself sitting in the meeting thinking, these are very nice people, but I do not want to work for them. And it wasn't because they were in any way disreputable, not even close. They were wonderful people, and it was a very fine firm. And the firm is continuing to thrive today, and I admire them a great deal, but I didn't want to work for them. And I thought, so what are we going to do? How am I going to ensure a future for the people who have made such a huge investment of themselves in this agency? And it suddenly dawned on me that the future of the firm was right here. It was these people. And there had to be a way to give them an opportunity to have equity in the firm, to chart the future course of the firm, to be treated as full partners, even if they were minority partners, and really change the dynamic. And the more I thought about it, the more excited I became about it. And with some help from some exceptional outside advisors, both financial advisors, legal advisors, business advisors, we were able to establish a equity participation program that really creates an opportunity not only for the two most senior professionals, and by the way, female professionals, to have a stake in the company, but everyone in the firm to have that opportunity. It's available to everyone in this firm at a point in time. And so I approached our female leaders and I said, is this something that would interest you? And the answer was resounding yes. And so we set it up. And so now really there is more than just me. And I think that accomplished many things. I think, first of all, it was inspirational for the rest of the team because they saw, oh, our future is not tied to Peter's lifespan or his whims of selling. Our future is far more unlimited, and there's a great deal more potential here. And oh my goodness, I might even have the possibility to own a piece of the firm. That's extraordinary. I won't get that in my next job. And the younger leaders who now suddenly did have equity are in a position to really make decisions, guide the practice, adopt some of these new innovations in ways that I might not have the intelligence or insight to be able to accomplish. It's given us a level of energy and I think sort of unlimited potential that might not have existed if I had just continued to sit here and occupy the throne. And I hope I'm still bringing value. I'm working very hard to try to do that on a regular basis, but a day does not go by that they don't deliver something to the firm, to the clients, to the team that I would not have been able to accomplish without them. And I think having that equity stake is enervating for them. I think it's their realization that something more than they might have had otherwise.
Peter, tell me, how important is it for agency leaders, or particularly those in independent spaces, those running their own ship, to give back to the sector as a whole? And talk me through what you've done to facilitate that. I know you're heavily involved with coaching and with alliances. So tell me what you're part of and what you've built.
Well, I think it's very important. This is an extraordinary, I think it's very important that we give back to the profession of communication, because this really is an extraordinary field. What we are able to do and the importance of what we do simply cannot be overstated. I think it's no secret for my industry colleagues around the world that we're facing some daunting challenges here in the United States, both politically and culturally and socially. We are at a moment in history that I think is going to have profound implications for the world for the future. And as I look at what is going on here, I never for a moment lose sight of the fact that what we need to do better is communicate. We need to learn how to talk to one another. We need to learn how to engage with one another in a productive and respectful and meaningful fashion. Doesn't mean we will always agree. Doesn't mean we will all align in political lockstep, but we can't be fighting with each other the way we are these days. You know, there's a lot of research out there that talks about young professionals needing to feel purpose and meaning in their work. And when you look at what's going on in society, especially here in the United States, what more purposeful work could we be doing than helping our society communicate? And so those of us who are in leadership positions really must adopt that mindset, give back to the profession so that the profession doesn't wane in significance and importance. I think there are lots of ways to do that. I think the Network One does it exceptionally well by creating these opportunities for those of us in the organization to interact with one another and to learn from one another and to participate in the continuing education that TNO fosters. It's just, it's essential. In my own personal experience here in the United States, I have in the past, not lately, been very involved in continuing education through the Public Relations Society of America. I have for many years participated as a judge in their Silver Anvil competitions, which I think is important to really recognize excellent work that's being done by gifted professionals in this field. I have also been involved, and I've had the great good fortune to be able to be involved in the development of an international network, not as big as the Network One, but PR World Alliance is something that I was able to help create with the collaboration of others out of the merger of two independent networks that were very small and sort of iconic in their own geographies, but both recognizing the potential to do something more. Under current leadership, I was the chair for many years, but now we have a very dynamic chair who's very energized and growing that network with new members from all around the world. We have a strong presence now in Asia, thanks to her leadership. We're adding partners in sort of traditional regions like Europe and in the United States. So that's a network that has had a great deal of meaning for me, and I'm proud to be able to say that I was part of it. I'm also recognizing that the networks are not the only way to engage with global partners or deliver service to clients who have specialized needs. And so over the last several years, I've helped to found with my colleagues in Europe and in Latin America 2 additional freestanding brands, agencies that didn't previously exist, but are now serving clients with unique requirements. And I think that also is tremendously exciting for me. It's giving me a new lease on my career, and it's tremendously exciting for my people because they're having an opportunity to work on international mandates that they might not otherwise have, especially in a firm that by anybody's calculus is a small firm. And I think the way that those firms operate and the way that they conduct their business and the way that they create growth opportunities for young professionals is in and of itself giving back to the profession and helping to sustain our relevance, our importance, our sense of mission and purpose. It's very exciting. It wasn't something that I was expecting at this stage in my career.
That sounds like you've embraced it. Well done to you. Peter, what would you say is your biggest achievement?
We're still in business after 35 years. That's something I didn't spend much time thinking about, but it's a wonderful thing, and it's because of the talent and the dedication of the people in this firm. Every day they come to work giving of themselves. They deliver their intellect and creativity to our clients. And I think if I can say that, you know, I help to create a space where they feel willing to do that and comfortable in it and excited about the opportunities that they have to share their talents and apply their skills, I think that's the greatest achievement I can possibly imagine.
And what kind of impact would you like to leave? What kind of legacy as an indie legend, as a one of the top personalities of 2023, what kind of impact would you like to leave?
I would like everyone to feel in this firm as if they were able to work at a place that treated them with dignity and respect. I think when we talk about legacy, when we talk about impact, when we talk about what do you wish to be recognized for, you know, when it finally does come to an end, I want people to say, I learned a lot there, and I accomplished a lot, and I was recognized and respected every day that I came to work. I think this was written into our submission for Indie Legends, and I'll keep it brief, but you know, when founders create their businesses, very many will sit down and write a mission, vision, values statement, an expression of culture. And I guess I just wasn't smart enough to do that. I was too busy trying to find clients in the early days, and I wasn't thinking big thoughts. But we sort of organically developed a way of doing things that people in the firm came to refer to as the Stanton way. And maybe that was a little bit of a reflection of myself and the way I went about doing things. But, you know, there were some big upheavals in our society, and there was, you know, this transition to a new ownership structure. And I thought it was a very good opportunity to revisit that whole idea of what is our culture and how do we wish to both express it and live it. And I think this is also one of the big challenges. You know, the founder can etch the commandments in stone, but you still have to learn how to live it. And that's a big challenge for a lot of organizations. And so we launched a process, we did it collectively, of taking a look at this unwritten ethos called the Stanton Way and tried to put it down on paper in a way that was relevant and meaningful for today and relevant and meaningful for the people in the firm. And there was no member of the firm that was disengaged from this process. It didn't matter if you were a student intern or a brand new hire or somebody with just a year of experience or 30 years of experience. You were invited into this process to participate, think about, share, and give new meaning to what we're all about. We ended up with, I think, a wonderful expression of culture that reflects the ideas and the brilliance and the intellect of the people in this firm. Not me, not just the founder writing it down on paper, but everybody here. They can maybe go on to another position in another firm at a future time, but they can always look back and say, I had an influence on what that agency is and the way it operates. And, you know, that's something that they can feel exceptionally good about. And just back to where we started, Helen, with this idea of clients first, it was a revelation to me that maybe that wasn't necessarily the best way for us to express ourselves. And the feeling was that maybe the people in the firm thought, well, that means I come second. And if they come second, then maybe they're not going to do their best work for the clients who come first. So we thought about that. We talked about it. We had some difficult discussions about it because I was sort of stuck in my ways. And now the way we express that same ethic is relationships first. And it's relationships with our clients and it's relationships with one another. And we really spent some time not just getting that down on paper, but then saying, what does it mean on a day-to-day basis? How do we behave? How do we respect one another? How do we maintain good manners? You know, so that we are not, as many in our society here in the United States are doing, yelling at each other and trying to communicate through volume instead of communicating through dignity. And I'm just so enormously impressed with the work that this team did to reframe our culture, to give it meaning and substance, and to enable us to know how to live our values every single day. And it isn't always easy. There are tough times, but we work through it, and because we know what we are committed to. And if that can be part of a legacy that represents something that got accomplished through the work of this firm and these exceptional talents that are here, then I'd like to feel very proud of that. And I'd like to believe that I helped to enable that.
Thank you, Peter. What advice would you give your younger self or an aspiring leader of today? What would you say to follow in your footsteps to build something as successful as you have and to be considered an indie legend? What advice would you give?
Be open to new ideas, listen to your people. I know looking back, there were more than a few times when I was sort of rigid and stuck in my ideas. I think maybe it held us back in a couple of instances. I think I could have listened better. You're talking about what ideas or advice could I share with my younger self? My academic background is in psychology. And one of the things that I learned in that academic curriculum was the importance of listening. And there are whole psychotherapies that are based on informed listening. And I've written on this, and I think it's something that I could have done a better job of. Here I am, the guy with the academic experience of it, and I'm not really doing necessarily the best job of it. So if I were to give my younger self some advice on what I could have done different or better, it was listen more and pay attention and ask compelling questions. You mentioned coaching. One of our clients is the International Coaching Federation. And one of the things that is at the heart of what coaches do is they ask powerful questions. And they draw out of the people they are coaching what is inside them, their ideas, their influences, their motivations. And I think that's something that leaders, especially in our profession, which is all about communication, need to do a better job of. Communication is always two-way. It's not just one way. And I'm not sure that my younger self necessarily always practiced that. Maybe that's a wisdom that comes with age and experience. But I work hard at it every day. My people will tell you I don't do a good job of it every day, but I try.
Thank you, Peter. And finally, what does it mean to be shortlisted for an Indie Legend Award? I mean, that's a pretty awesome accolade to be put forward to. What does it mean to you personally?
It's a little breathtaking, especially that it occurred within the aegis of the Network One. I'm so fortunate to be a member of this organization, and I do not say that to be gratuitous. I look at the Network One and recognize how many members there are in every part of the world. And to think that I achieved some measure of recognition from a global community is, it's truly humbling. I am so honored, so grateful to my colleagues in this field. I hope I can return the respect that they have demonstrated toward me with this recognition. And I hope that they know I am enormously grateful and honored. I don't take this lightly. It's tremendously meaningful to me, and thank you.
Well, huge congratulations from me, from the whole of the Network One team, and from the whole community. Many congratulations on a lifetime of success and achievement, not only for Stanton Communications, but for you personally. We wish you the very best, and thank you so much for sharing those insights with us today.
Thank you, Helen. It was a privilege.